Hi, I'm Soraya Mia, and you're watching It's About Youth. Did you know that in 2023 alone, there were over 1,000 cases of suicide reported in Malaysia, up from 981 cases the year before. And the most number of suicide cases was reported in the year 2021, with over 1,140 cases. This is according to the Health Minister, Datuk Sri Dr. Zulkifli Ahmad. Shedding light about the reality of suicide and mental health is Astro Originals series, Project Exit, where the series explores themes of mental health, suicide, as well as depression and trauma. Now, we're going to speak to the director, Zulaikha Zakaria, as well as the producer, Syakir Zakii. Thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So, what was behind the inspiration of Project Exit? Maybe Zulaikha, you'd like to take this one?
Okay. It started 2 years ago, and well, actually, it started before High Council time, right? So it was tough time when it was COVID was happening, and people were going through hard times, and it started off with a friend of mine who kind of shared his experience, whereby he was talking that he was going through some things. I had no idea what was that. I thought, well, you just go to the doctor and get some sort of medication, right? But what happened is that when he explained to me the feeling, it feels like, you know, there is no cure, Ika, there's only a way to cope. That must be really torturing, I think. So years goes by, and it was just the right time. We are able to talk about something that is a taboo back then, and I guess the audience and how people are being so, they're so open-minded these days, you know. And when we pitched the idea, it was a no-brainer, really. And years go, and then a year after that, we started to develop the story, and so happened that it became a thing that I started to learn about myself along the way, and I think that kept going, and that is what made the story feels a bit more real, yeah, because it was real time, you know. I guess me and a bunch of the writers are learning about things that are happening to us as people. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. So yeah, you did speak a little bit about taboo, right? It's not just taboo back then. It still is. I mean, it still is to a lot of Malaysians, especially. But we'll talk more about that later. Actually, I wanted to ask Mo. This project, I believe, is very close to you. Where or like which parts of the series do you resonate the most when it comes to, you know, mental health?
Well, I think the overall, I mean, Ika created a story that highlights mental health, obviously. So when she roped me in and she asked if I was interested to produce, it was a no-brainer for me. Because, as you said, it's something very close to me. So, and I thought it's high time that we have a story like Project Exit be brought to the audiences, the Malaysian audiences especially, because as you said, it's still taboo now. It is a bit better, but I think awareness is still very much important, you know. So yeah, the overall concept of mental health in Project Exit is very close. I mean, especially to those who I am close with, those around me who are immediately affected by it. They must know that they are never alone. You know, there are people like Ika, the other like myself, and the actors who are here portraying real issues that needs to be addressed. So yeah, I think just the whole thing is very close to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something that perhaps many youth in Malaysia could resonate with. So yeah, I was actually really impressed when I watched the series for the first time. Yeah.
Actually, if I can just add, yes, it's portraying the, you know, what is happening through the eyes of a teenager Jannah, right? But who it is for, right? Not just for the youth. but really it's for the generation who are not aware what is mental health. Hence why you have a character like the mother, you know, and these are the people who went through tough times, even tougher than perhaps what we're going through now. I'm not saying that what we are going through now is not tough, but back then it's a different struggle, you know, the struggle of portraying a different persona to a lot of the older generation, right?
Who don't understand.
Who don't understand what's that like. So I think we were trying to also capture what is it like in that perspective. So we are not saying that any of the generation are excluded in this, you know, because we are, by the end of the day, people comes with feelings, and mental health in a way starts from there, starts from trauma. And that is something that we, all of us who are in the production, in the team, are fully aware, and we think that is the responsibility that we have to carry. And it's not just from the eyes of the youth, but especially for other generations as well, right?
Yeah, I think that's also really important, especially when we talk about like the taboo and stereotypes, right? Because it's usually the older generations that kind of deny,
unfortunately,
or maybe they might think that, oh, this is something to do more with spirituality, you know, things like that. Speaking of which, how do you think that Project Exit sort of tackles the challenges of the stereotypes and the taboos?
I think for me, which you can add later, for me, we are not trying to portray anything that we're not romanticizing what is it like being in that position, because I think what's also happening, I mean, of course you have the older generation talking about like mental health has something to do with, you know, a lot of other things, but it's also the generation who in a way think being, you know, mentally struggling with mental health is cool, you know, and that is something that we are trying to show, hey, that this is real, you know, and cool, I don't know if it's cool, but I think what we are trying to say is that being in that position and the best that we could do, portraying it through the visuals, through the character, through the story, through the sounds. Those are the things that I guess one of the most comments that we get, people get triggered because they feel like, oh my God, finally whatever that is in my head, it's out there, you know? And I felt like you're being called out for, you know? And to me, that is, it comes to that stage because it was so, I guess, genuine. I don't think we were trying to cover anything. But we were taking that risk. We are aware that we're taking that risk. We were aware of that.
Very much aware. That's why I think it's also quite important to, especially some of our audiences who are going through struggles, to watch it with someone you trust.
Correct.
Watch it with a parent, a friend, anyone, you know, and you can always just remember that there are help out there. And why it's important also to take the risk is because we do not want to minimize the effects of mental health issues, you know. It's quite important to also portray people who go through these issues accurately as to not minimize what they're going through. Yeah, so I think that's why we had to be quite raw about it.
So about, you know, this is probably not talked about enough, but I feel like since you brought it up earlier about mental health possibly being a trend among younger people, who knows? But yeah, so how do we actually ensure that, you know, a series like this is just to shed light, to spread awareness, but then not to kind of encourage anything like that? Because, I mean, you know, do you get what I mean?
So your question is how?
Yeah.
How do we?
Like how do we
manage that?
Yeah, it's
on
like
our
a thin
end.
line. Yeah.
Right. So it's quite interesting that when we talk about what makes sense to the youth, and the things that we got are mostly just online, right? And it's based on comments, based on what is cool for them to repost. And definitely on our side, because we are content creators, we take that as one of the selling points for us to get audience attention. But by the end of the day, it always starts with getting people's attention, and then the story, as the story goes, it gets into a situation where this is no longer about being cool or being part of a trend. You're starting to see, although I safely say this for my cast members, it's like for whatever reason you kind of believe that these are like legit people. Like for example, Shasha Abdul, who's playing Jannah, right? I am so lucky because when I met her and we did casting, it was no-brainer for her to deliver such pure, I don't know, scene, like the scene, like emotions, you know. And then I started to realize, oh wait, hold on, because what we were trying to do in episode 1, it started off being, you know, quite light, and it gets quite serious, and we're fully aware where is that going, right? But it's also because we are starting to see, okay, enough is enough. No more sugarcoating it anymore, right? And I think by doing that, hopefully, perhaps, the younger generation who think that this is cool, starting to realize, oh wait, hold on. This is real and it's an illness. I guess mental illness is an illness. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like it's important for them to know that, okay, this is a cool topic, but at the same time,
It's real.
it's real. Yeah, yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Speaking of how raw the emotions are, I actually went to the showing party, the viewing party, and then the cast was there, and then the cast actually cried
Oh gosh.
after, you know, watching the final episodes. So talking about the emotions that it will bring to the audience, perhaps how was it so far in terms of reactions? Would you like to take this?
Yeah, sure. Reactions from the general public?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
wow. So the only social media I use is Instagram.
Okay.
I have Twitter, but I hardly use it. But I went on it just to see what the feedbacks are, you know. Thankfully they are quite positive. But then I was telling the cast about it. Oh, there was so much emotional feedback, positive feedback. It's looking great. And then they're like, where are you looking at? Like, Twitter. You don't look at Twitter. You look at TikTok. I'm like, oh, all right, okay, so fine. I downloaded TikTok, and I went on, and my age is showing now. And my God, like everyone has been so supportive of what we've been doing, and there were a few. I might be wrong, but there were a few people who just started like talking about how they can relate. To Jannah, you know, mostly it's to Jannah and what they're feeling. Oh, like what Ika said, oh, what Jannah is going through kind of feels similar to what I'm going through, you know. So I hope that these feedbacks will continue, because then it will spark more to speak out about what they're feeling. Maybe it sparks them to seek help, because it might just make them realize, okay, maybe I need to find out what's going on with me, you know.
Right.
Yeah, so it has been quite good, I'd say. Yeah, alhamdulillah, yeah.
It's good to know, and especially when you point out the fact that you know, basically the series aims to raise awareness, to also encourage people to speak up and to seek help, right? So how do you think Project Exit portrays the importance of seeking help and building support systems?
I think what we're trying to do here is that, again, support system. A safe environment and a safe support system is the key to people speaking up, right? And I don't think on social media or even among our friends, right, like us, when we're hanging out with our friends, I think it's not something that we talked about. Going through struggles, it's not something that you want to share. Or if you're having thoughts in your head, it's not something that you want to talk about. And I think building a safe environment starts from, you know, showing that such series, and now that it is being in a well, basically it's a movement that we're trying to build, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to build, like, we're trying to start an awareness and a
Yeah.
movement whereby people think it's safe for them to start saying things and seek for help, and it's not a fabulous thing, really. I don't think any of us hop on into this project thinking that this will be a fabulous job. And we are aware of the responsibilities that we're taking. And one of the things that I personally get is that people are reaching out to me, random people are reaching out to me online and say how they're feeling, how they're connected to some of the characters. And most of all is they're saying that some of the voices in Jannah's head feels like something that they hear. And that, to me, we're here, we're not trying to diagnose anything, right? But we're saying that if it is what it is, and you feel that it's something that feel like it's something that you need to voice out, perhaps hence why we, in a way, worked with Miyasa also to be a part of this, because they are more expert, they know what to do, and that is where we are directing the channel to. It's quite unfortunate that we don't know them when we were doing Writer's Room, because they have so much input. You know, how to calm people down when you're going through an attack. Those are the things that we are trying to portray in our stories, as you see through the counselor and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I also noticed that you have the call for
action.
That's also very important.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you added that as well.
Very important.
So let's talk more about societal roles, societal stigma actually. So what role does the societal stigma play in the challenges faced by the characters, and how do we actually solve this in real life, you think?
Solve it in real life. As I said, I think speaking to talk about it is super important. I mean, like Ika said, no one will ever be comfortable about talking about their struggles because of the fear of stigma, because
and being judged.
Yeah. In episode 3, we have Jannah, who is diagnosed with anxiety, and her mother reacts very selfish, very poorly to it, almost selfishly, so that is also a reflection of not all, but there are families, there are people who have received the same reaction by friends, families, because just purely because, like for example, you don't pray enough, you don't do enough good, and that's why so it's just not that. Sometimes you can never know what the cause is, and it all starts inside. Whether it's trauma, childhood trauma. Sometimes you've how do you say it? Pendam, when you've already buried some. And sometimes you forget what you've gone through as a child, because being children as kids, that's when we're a sponge, so that's when you take everything in. So sometimes you don't realize how it reflects your present in the present as an adult.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
yeah, because I mean, if we could go like how it is like being portrayed in the series, for example, in episode 6, we kind of reveal what actually happened to her.
Yeah.
And you might think, wait, how come she don't remember such thing, right? But there is a term, technically, what is the word? Oppressed memory? Oppressed memory. Oppressed memory.
Yeah,
so
oppressed
it's a memory that it's a trauma.
Repressed memory. Sorry.
So it's a repressed memory that happened usually to children at an early age. Whereby it is so traumatizing to them, right? It's like you were there, but your brain refused to remember it because it's so traumatizing. It's a way for you to cope and for you to survive, actually. So it is. It's a thing that I myself discover as we are trying to learn and read more about this, and how that is something that we kind of add into the story, and that's why, if anything, for her, there's this one famous, like she said, macam mana aku nak fikir pasal masa depan? How can I think about the future if my past is such a blur? I couldn't think forward. You know, my
Yeah.
past is such a blur. I don't know how to move forward. And oftentimes trauma holds you back, and that is what we are portraying through that character. And we also talk about grief, right, in the story. And each of the character resembles grief in stages. 5 stages of grief. That would be, what was it? Denial.
Denial, I can't
Anger.
remember the exact, but
Yeah.
denial, anger. Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah,
there
so
were a
5
few,
stages
yeah.
of grief, and how
Yeah.
at the end of it,
Self-blame, all that.
no,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
5
yeah.
stages of grief. It's
Yeah.
denial, anger, at the end of it is acceptance.
Oh, okay.
And each of them are resembling that.
Yeah.
And to go through grief, and all of these are also in a way another form of trauma. Grief is also a trauma, and for you to move forward. And that's why at the end of it, the arc for her is to think about the future now,
Yeah.
to live. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, speaking of trauma, right? I think it's also very important that the series addresses generational trauma.
Oh yes,
Right?
absolutely.
Familial trauma,
Yeah,
things
yeah.
that, children may not know
Yeah.
or may not choose to be in a situation like this,
Yeah.
but then also the parents might not choose to be in a
Exactly.
situation
Yeah.
what they
Yeah.
go through, right?
Yeah.
But then end up it just shows in the mental health
Yeah.
of an
Yeah.
individual. Maybe one of you could speak a little bit more about this generational trauma in the series.
Jana's relationship with her mom. If Jana was not diagnosed, for example, with anxiety and lives life without knowing what it is she's going through, the cycle will repeat. Her mother is trying her best to protect her from the truth. And that truth is actually what is hurting her, even though she doesn't know it, but she knows something is missing in that part of her life, because she was very close to her father, but obviously she does get diagnosed, and that's the first step in healing, which is acknowledging what you have, what it is you're going through. If you live in the dark, you'll never know, obviously, and the circle will continue. You'll grow up living with an undiagnosed.
Just coping with
yeah,
it in
exactly.
a way that is not
exactly,
right.
and then you'll pass it on to your kids.
Right.
So I
So
think
that's how it works,
seeking help is always the first step in acknowledging that you have a problem, and by acknowledging the problem, that's where you end generational trauma, so you know what it is you have. And obviously, as a human being, you must do your best to not repeat these mistakes, if you have kids, for example, one day, it encourages them to be more open. So
I agree with that one. So now we have about 3 minutes left. Maybe you could tell how the viewers could watch Project Exit, where, and maybe tell them why they should.
Right. You can watch Project Exit on Suka and Astro Go. And all 6 episodes is out already, so you can binge through it. Why should you watch it? I think let's start with, because I think most of the time when people talk about Exit, it's always about mental health. And though I think it's something that is a message that we're trying to push, right? That is basically the anchor to the story, right? But by the end of the day, it's a show that talks about friendship, talks about family and love. And why should you watch it? I honestly think it is a show that makes you feel like you are 15 again, and going through fun times with your friends. And I think let's start there and maybe see where the show takes you. So yeah.
Okay, would you like to add anything?
Yes. It will remind you of your time as a teenager. I'll give yes, definitely times with friends, but will also remind you sometimes, like in anyone's life, there will always be down times as well. But just do know that, just like being happy, being sad will always change. Being sad will always move forward to being happy again. So I think it will also serve as a reminder that emotions are fleeting. And another reason to watch it is also because, well, mental health is very important as well, obviously, you know. But at the same time, don't forget that to watch it with someone you trust, especially if you are facing some issues, please watch it with someone you trust. Yeah.
4 orang geng cari pasal, berdiri dalam bulatan macam orang pangang. Siap sekali.
Hadi, stop. Kenapa kau degil sangat, ha?
Aku kata aku okey. Aku okey lah!
There you have it. The director and showrunner of Project Exit, Zulaikha Zakaria, and producer Syakir Zakii. That's all the time we have today. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining the show.
Thank you.
I'm Soraya Mia, and I hope you watch Project Exit when you can. I'll see you next time.